Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Film Optix review brought to you by the Drive-In Podcast Network. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by my co-host and my friend, Devin. And today, we're going to be reviewing the latest Netflix original film, Malcolm and Marie, to kick off Black History Month. So, without further ado, let's jump in.
That's all it is, man. A leap of faith.
I am Iron Man.
Tells me you're from Memphis.
Ooh, every time gives me the chills. Can't not play it. Like, I want to play it again, but you know, we have a review to do. But yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Film Optix, another Film Optix review. As I mentioned before, my name is Christian. This is Devin. We're just going to be, diving in to Malcolm and Marie. First, before we begin our review of the film, we would like to thank Netflix for allowing us to watch and review this film early for you folks at home listening. So this review is not live. We're just doing the old school audio way because, that's what I feel like that's more of our nature until we, get more comfortable with live streaming a little bit more. And plus, this was kind of like a last minute review. So there's always that. And it's like, you know what? There's a lot of prep work that goes into streaming. And we decided to do this. We wanted to kick off Black History Month with this. And it just wasn't in the cards for us, unfortunately. But we are here. We're going to be giving you our best thoughts and opinions of Malcolm and Marie. This cast it stars two people. We got the lovely Zendaya, and we have King John David Washington. It's directed and written by Sam Levinson. It will be dropping on Netflix, I believe, on February 5th, as well as in theaters. So I'll read the synopsis really quick. We'll give like our first non-spoiler thoughts, and then we'll kind of get into the cream of the crop there. But the synopsis reads, a director and his girlfriend's relationship is tested after they return home from his movie premiere and awaits a critic's response, which I didn't even know that was the premise. I just saw Zendaya, John David Washington in this amazing black and white film, which was actually filmed in the middle of a pandemic. This was filmed in secret, which makes it a little bit more spicy,
Spicy.
Very, very spicy. But I just wanted to get your thoughts really quick. You just watched the movie. We both watched it earlier today, but I wanted to get your quick thoughts about it because you said it was interesting, but I figured you were going to kind of hold off until we got into our review.
I actually did a Washington family double feature this weekend.
Ooh, what'd you watch?
The Little Things last night. Got Dad Denzel, and then Malcolm and Marie today. The Little Things was it's kind of rough. Not gonna lie. Have you seen it?
I got 30 minutes in and turned it off, dude. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, Jared Leto is so cringy.
I didn't even get that far. I think I stopped around like 30 to 35 minutes. And then I turned it off, and I actually watched The Way Back for the first time, and time well spent, 100%. Highly recommend that film over, yeah. I mean, I thought something was fishy for a bit with The Little Things because I did try to get a screeners, and nobody was responding. And
it's a January release, which obviously is always cursed.
Usually. Yeah, pretty much. Because what if lockdown. Ultimate Plate, yeah. Okay, you're right. Yeah. Wow, this sucks. Yeah, it seems like, even if these movies are not in theaters,
January theater releases specifically are very cursed and
very slow.
Kind of just thrown out there because they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, it's like it's a movies. It's like, well, we can't close out these movies with a banger towards the end of the year, so I guess we'll just open up with it and kind of build throughout the months, because typically I would say honestly not until like March or April is when films, the films that we really want to start seeing drop out. It's kind of the same thing with in the gaming realm as well. Like usually January, February are like very, very slow months. Like there are games that come out, but it's nothing. It's not like the heavy hitters like the AAA or even the AA games that people are looking for. And I feel like it's the same way with films as well. But yeah, The Little Things was it caught my attention a little bit by 30 minutes, and I haven't gone back, so I'm good.
It goes out with a whimper. I'll say that.
I don't know what it was about that movie. I just wasn't feeling it at all. But the trailer looked so good.
Yep.
And I was like, can we stop making
That classic trailer magic?
Can we stop making these amazing trailers and the product just ends up being terrible? It's like with Amazing Spider-Man. I think it was 1 or 2 where they marketed Spider-Man fighting the Rhino. I think it was towards the end of. I think it was Amazing Spider-Man 2. They marketing him fighting the Rhino, and then it's literally just one scene and cuts to black, and it's the last scene in the entire movie, and it's like, wow. Like
honestly, and also no one who really cares about the Rhino that much. I mean.
Yeah, he is more of a lesser villain, but I mean, it would have been different versus, Green Goblin again, like really, Hobgoblin, whatever you want to call him, like again, really. Spider-Man has so many other villains other than Green Goblin, and I think they've been exploring that so far. Well, Disney taking over, but
speaking of Spider-Man, Zendaya, let's talk about half of this movie's cast.
Yeah, six minutes in, and we're finally now getting into the actual review portion. So, your initial thoughts about Zendaya? I thought she did a phenomenal job. I wanted to get your take really quick.
Yeah, her and John David Washington are the reason to watch this movie. They are just powerhouse actors at this point, just kind of throwing haymakers back and forth at each other, just brawling it out verbally throughout the entire film. Just gets pretty crazy.
It definitely, this entire film felt like Marriage Story, but like on steroids. And it's like as if, the apartment scene was just one giant movie, because that's literally what this film felt like. But even within the trailer itself, they said it's not a love story. It's a story about love, and they're going through their entire relationship. He comes back. He standing ovation from this like amazing film that he has made, and it takes a lot of jabs at critics. By the way, I was very I was like, ooh, they're really going for it, aren't they? But
LA Times,
huh?
LA Times.
LA Times, Variety, majority LA Times. Yeah, it was very, I was just blown away. But I know a lot of people, before we kind of get into the weeds and the grass about this one, I know there are a lot of people out there who are like concerned about the 12-year age gap between John David Washington and Zendaya, and Zendaya actually commented about this on the IndieWire, and she said people often forget, which is understandable because I've been playing 16 since I was 16, but I am grown. And
thought never even crossed my mind.
It didn't cross my mind at all.
John David Washington doesn't even look old at all. He looks like he's late 20s.
Black don't crack, man. I mean, I just had to come out. It's true. But yeah, I mean, I'll never understand that. Hold on 1 second. I need to plug in my laptop before we lose this. But just give your quick little thoughts about it. I'll be right back.
All right. He'll be right back, and we're just here talking about Zendaya and John David Washington. Had some great chemistry there. They were really going at it, going up against each other's throats. Knives out, one could say. Save the day.
I came in on save the day. I'm sorry. I like my MacBook is literally like, oh, by the way, you're going to lose power. I'm like, probably should have plugged that in. I thought I had more juice, but I apologize. It's been a crazy, crazy day, everyone. But like I said, this review is last minute, but, I'm not sure what you said, but I'm sure it was very.
I was just talking about their chemistry on screen.
Yeah. Oh, chemistry was fantastic, dude. Like, I literally felt very uncomfortable at times, but I was like sucked into this film, and it's really not that long. It's about what, an hour 45 ish.
Yeah.
So like, it definitely grabs your attention. And I thought the pacing was really well. The ending scene was like, wow, like they're reciting these huge monologues, and it's like, it really just, it is a very heavily, the dialogue, like you have to pay attention to this movie. It's not like something you can watch in passing, like The Little Things or Extraction or The Old Guard or something of that nature, but it is man, oh man. So I wondered, like, who is the lead and who's supporting? Is it Zendaya's the lead?
It really matters.
I don't think it matters.
Equals.
Yeah, well, because I guess the reason why I was asking, because even with Marriage Story, I mean, it was a story between a couple, but I believe Scarlett Johansson was the lead and Adam Sandler was the supporting actor.
Adam Sandler.
Wow. Adam.
Wrong Adam.
I'm telling you, man, this is Sunday. I'm just all over the place. I'm sorry, not Adam Sandler. He doesn't deserve to be in that movie. I meant Adam Driver. Wow. Scarlett Johansson and Adam Sandler. Can you imagine?
Would have been pretty spicy.
Very spicy. But yes, I believe Adam Driver was the supporting actor in that film. But I mean, I feel like they should definitely both, between Zendaya and John David Washington, they should definitely both share the spotlight in that aspect. Because I mean, there's literally nobody else. Like, they've mentioned all their other coworkers, and it kind of, the whole thing starts with mac and cheese. And I got to say, mac and cheese has never looked so good in black and white.
It didn't look like anything because it was black and white.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up. I think black and white is pretty gimmicky.
Really?
You like it.
I like it a lot.
It doesn't add anything for me. Like, it's just, what does it add to the movie?
I guess it's just more, I don't know, there's something special, like spicy about this movie that's like, oh, it was filmed in secret. And for whatever reason, I feel like the film will not have the same effect as it did. I don't know, man. That's a good question, because so far, I mean, like films like Roma is in black and white, The Lighthouse is in black and white, but I can kind of understand The Lighthouse being in black and white because that,
because it actually takes place in older time.
That, and it, I mean, they use like the aspect ratio, the 4:3, like the square aspect ratio, with it to kind of make it feel more claustrophobic. And it was more so like a horror thriller type vibe. I don't know what it is about black and white films, but like, I just really, really like them. It gives like, it doesn't make this film, necessarily feel old. It just gives it that, I don't know. It's like man. It's kind of like, I really don't know. It's very, very hard to explain, but I dug it. Like, I feel like for whatever reason, well, I guess for me, when it comes to black and white, especially for this film, it's as if, like their relationship is there, but it's like the color in their relationship has kind of just faded away. Like, it's still existing, but it's kind of like on the verge of it could go either way. But, we'll get into that in a little bit here. But I don't know. It kind of just, it's kind of like all of the life has been sucked out of their relationship, especially after what happened, during his film's premiere. And then, the mac and cheese, leads to them fighting about what happened that night, and then that they literally bring up all these other aspects of their relationship. Like, I don't know what it is, but even with Mank was in black and white, and I liked it. I don't know why. It was just, I guess it has that kind of vintage vibe, but it's very hard to explain. But why don't you like it?
I don't know. Just it doesn't add anything for me. It just feels unnecessary most of the time.
Okay, because like when I watched Logan, like the noir, I mean I can watch it both ways, but it feels like I'm watching a totally different movie when I'm watching Logan, the noir version of it. But I really, and I think didn't Mad Max Fury Road do the same thing with like the Crown, the black and white as well? I think so.
Parasite did it too.
Yeah, Parasite. See, it was so good in Parasite. But I think I prefer color when it comes to Parasite. But it works both ways. It's very, very weird. But even with the black and white, and I kind of wanted to shout this out because when it comes to like coloring, especially for like African American skins, how dark John David, he has the darkest skin tone, but the coloring, like, you know, it didn't make it look like he had like a black face. You know, it's not like they just, let's just turn on this black and white filter and boom, like the whole movie was in black and white. Like they definitely had to still do some type of, you know, color, not color degrading, but coloring when it comes to it. But I don't know, man. It's I just dug it a lot. I was like, I mean, I would like the film just as much if it was in black and if it was in color, but I don't know. It was just, it gave it that extra oomph, so to speak. But
to me, it might take away some oomph. Take away the colors.
Oh no! Here we go. No, I mean, honestly, and it's fair enough. I'm sure. And I would like to see this film again in color. You know, I would like to see, you know, the aspects of the room and, you know, what the house actually looked like.
It was a nice house.
Very nice. Literally in the middle of nowhere. I don't know where they were though. Like
somewhere in LA.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like it's like here's just like a random beach house we found like on a hill that like hasn't been used in like, I don't know, 10 years or something. But I was like, you guys seem to be doing pretty well for yourself if you're living in a place like this. But I think he did say in the film that the studio put them in that house. I'm not sure if it was just for them, you know, for the premiere, kind of just like a temporary home or whatnot, but it didn't look like it because, you know, it looked like they were kind of comfy up in there, you know. It looks like they've been there for a while. But let's get into kind of like the nitty gritty of it. So everyone who is listening, excuse me, wow, because this is audio only. We are about to get into heavy spoilers for it. So if you haven't seen the film yet, turn back, go watch it, and come back. So you have been warned. Spoiler territory right now. Let's go. So Zendaya killed herself. No. I thought she was going to, or I thought one of them was going down when she had that knife. I was like, yo. But
as soon as that started, I was like, okay, she's acting. It was so over the top. You could just tell like automatically.
Yeah.
It was so dramatic.
It was like, it's like she flipped a switch. But this film, when it came to like the relationship, like I didn't feel as drained when I felt like emotionally draining, but not in a bad way when it came to like Marriage Story, because that was more like a divorce case. And that's, you know, flying between LA and New York. But this is, you know, a more, you know, the entire film takes place in and a little bit outside of the house. But I just felt like it was, were they actually meant to be together? Because like we definitely saw some toxic behavior between both of them. But, you know, we don't know how long they've been together. But with Zendaya's character, Marie, you know, she was a drug addict when she was 20.
Kind of felt like it could have been a Euphoria movie.
That's what I was going to say.
Same writer, same director.
Oh, is it really same writer, same director? I didn't know that.
And Rue is a drug addict.
Yeah.
Near age 20. So
you know what? I was going to say this.
Maybe it's canon. Maybe Malcolm scoops up Rue and she changes her name to Marie or something and they move out to LA.
Honestly, I was
already in LA. I don't remember.
yeah, probably on the outskirts of LA. But I was gonna say, this is this in the Euphoria verse? Like, is this?
It feels like it.
But yeah, it was she clearly she plays, I guess you could say, kind of the same character, but a future version of Rue, where she is more put together, and we learn the kind of like how they met, and the trials and tribulations that they went through prior to that the night that this whole thing goes down. But I really like how this film is a story about love, because you would expect, like, the average viewer would be like, oh, well, John David Washington is such an asshole, blah 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 blah. Like, they both kind of have valid points. I mean, it just depends on who you side with. I probably would side a little bit more with Zendaya, because you kind of do see more of the imperfections of Malcolm, more so than Marie. But it's kind of like, they're fighting because they're like, hey, like, this is the worst fight we've, possibly have ever been in. But they don't mention, like, oh, like, we're just going to split up. Because, like, I feel like that's so predictable. And usually, like, when you care about somebody in that way, and for God knows how long they've been together, a lot of couples have fights, behind closed doors that we don't really know about, that could end up being very bad, but they still stick it out. So maybe they're, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to bring up the fights, because I think my biggest issue with the movie was just the pure amount of just heavy monologues going back and forth between the two characters. Because the first few times it happened, it was it's what brings you and draws you into the movie. It's like the interesting part of the movie, because they're just going at each other. But as the movie goes on, there's just so many of these monologues that are very, like, kind of long and overdrawn. It became a little bit exhausting, to be honest, because there wasn't really any back and forth. There were a couple times where they respond to each other, but they kind of just sat there and took it most of the time. And that feels very unrealistic when you're watching it, because when are you ever in an argument and you just sit there for 5 minutes and listen? Like, that just doesn't feel real to me.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the relationship, because, like, I mean, speaking, like, not from my past experience, but, like, I've known people who have been in arguments where they kind of just, it's the whole, never go to bed angry type thing at your partner until you hash things out. And it seems that they did, but I feel like it is, like, his, they were at each other's throats for a second, but then we did get to see a more sweeter side of them, going back and forth. But it always came back to the argument, which I personally felt like that was more realistic, because, like, an argument always isn't just like yelling, like the scene in Marriage Story, the apartment scene, but that was a more, different type. Every relationship is different, but it's not like, depending on the argument and the scale of what's going on, it's not like they would argue for like 5-10 minutes and then, like, just go to bed. But I don't know. It just depends on where they actually are in their relationship. But I personally felt like it was more realistic, especially if you're with someone. I'm just going to assume they're at least with each other for at least 4 to 5 years, because she said, well, let's say like 6 years, because, well, we don't know how old Marie is in the actual film at that point in time, but she said when she was 20. So I'm like, okay, well, if they're just actually going off of Zendaya's actual age and she's 24, that's at least 4 years, but I would give it at least maybe like 2 more years extra just to kind of fill in the gap there. I really don't know, but I can understand where you're coming from, but I guess for me it was just more, it did feel realistic, because they kept coming back to it was like something always kind of triggered them going back to the argument. But I do agree that, a lot, it is, the dialogue was a lot.
Maybe I mean, maybe I don't argue enough, but I feel like for you to have like a 5-minute monologue like 10 times throughout the movie, it just feels unrealistic and unnatural. Like, it felt like it was written. because for someone to have like a passionate monologue like that, just kind of felt like they were prepared for it. Mm-hmm. It was, I don't know, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Just because they have their thoughts so like well planned out, and they had all these attacks just ready to go after like a few minutes of not talking.
And it really begs the question, like, how long like has this fight been going on? Longer than what we saw, or was this just obviously this is one movie. We didn't really we didn't see anything that happened at the actual premiere of his film and whatnot. But apparently, like, going back to like when they were talking about like the critics, especially the LA Times. Speaking a little bit of truth there, I'm not gonna lie, but it was kind of like we got to see both sides of the coin, because obviously Malcolm was on one side, and then Marie saw John's side, but she also saw the other side, and it's kind of like a vicious cycle where it's like critics are always blaming filmmakers, vice versa, and this whole thing gets drawn up, even though the review that he read was technically a good review, but I guess he didn't like the parts that she didn't like about it, and it's like I guess I really don't know how all that works when it comes to a good review. It's like a good review is a good review unless she may have misinterpreted what he was trying to portray on screen, and also with Zendaya's character when she kind of they're about to, I guess, make love or whatever. And, and she kind of, he goes to the bathroom and comes back, and she's like, why didn't you cast me in this role? Because it was literally basically based around her life. And I was like, that's a very valid question. So I don't know. I loved seeing the, the back and forth and, the cool down moments and whatnot. And then they kind of just started back up again because it's so late. And, I guess it's true. Never go to bed early. I mean, angry. Yeah. But was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
One thing I was curious as to what your thoughts are on about it is, obviously the movie talks a lot about the Black voice and Black directors and the perspective of Black people in cinema. It just feels a little off to me that it was written and directed by a white guy. I'm not saying that a white guy can't write from a different perspective, but for this movie specifically, where in the movie they talk about so specifically the Black voice and Black directors being so important, and the hard times that comes with making a movie while being a Black person, just feels off to me.
I guess I didn't really think about that, because I saw this one TikTok video. This guy was talking about how he said how there's white people, and then there's people who happen to be white, but they understand the issue at hand. For me personally, I could see why people could, view it that way, but as long as someone understands the issue, Hollywood has with that type of situation, or any type of situation, whether it's, Black directors, Black actors, or, female directors and what have you, not getting the recognition they deserve as well. I feel like as long as you have someone who understands that issue, and I mean, clearly, it was important enough for them to put into the film. And I mean,
that's kind of where it's weird to me, because there's plenty of examples of people making a movie with a perspective that's not their own. But the one that comes to mind for me is Bo Burnham in 8th grade.
Yeah.
He was never a teenage girl, but he does such a good job of providing that perspective for what he believes it would have been like. But in this movie specifically, they talk about it like in so much detail about the Black voice, and it feels off.
Maybe he could have gotten like inspiration from Zendaya and John David Washington, because I mean Zendaya has been in the industry way longer than John has overall. So I mean, and like, they even talked about.
I'm sure it was a collaborative effort.
Yeah, they even talked about it in the film with drawing inspiration from like certain places. I mean, but I can see why that can be puzzling. But I guess just to answer your question, it doesn't bug me because the message was, came across loud and clear. Even I know this is kind of odd topic, but it's about, like Ghost of Tsushima, the PlayStation 4 feudal Japan game that was made by Sucker Punch Games, which is, it's an American studio making a cultural game about Japan. Now, obviously they have, did their research, drew their inspiration, but I think it was either the CEO of Sega or Capcom that said that like the game was amazing. It was fantastic. It was, historically accurate. I think the only thing they said is that they made the main character a little too handsome, which I don't really know what that means. But I think it was the CEO from Sega, and he's like we as in Japan should have made this game. But in some instances, like it's a rare form where someone outside of that culture
can appreciate it more.
Yeah, can appreciate it just as somebody within that culture. And I mean, the whole cultural appropriation thing is kind of bonkers to me, just because if someone has an admiration for that culture and they want to, express in a respectable way, of course, I think it's a beautiful thing, the fact that, there are people outside of different cultures that can do that. It's very rare that happens. But I don't know. I mean, that's a good question though. I didn't really even think about it that way. Because it could have fooled me. It's like, I mean, to me, I guess when it comes to that, it doesn't really matter. I'm like, hey, if that person gets, the point across of what everyone else is trying to say, and as long as they understand, because they clearly do, then it's fine with me. I'm all good. I'm all good. But did you want to get into scores? Coming up here a little bit on time. So
yeah, let's do it.
What would you give Malcolm and Marie out of 100?
I will give Malcolm and Marie
M&M.
M&M. It's true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a 70.
Oh, Devin, my
life. It was good, but not great because of the few things that I outlined before.
Okay.
For me.
Fair enough. I'm going to go with a solid 80 for this one. The only real gripe I had was I just wish we had a little bit more of the backstory, but this is literally just like the aftermath of a situation that went completely sideways, and towards the end it's like she's like, all I wanted was like a thank you from me, when you're thinking all these other people but you're not thinking your girlfriend, which clearly was inspiration for him making that film. And she also shows that she's like, oh yeah, you could have casted me, and like she's like, I love the movie but it could have been better.
Yeah, type
situation. But yeah, I mean it is a story about love, the dark corners, and just everything in the bottle. I think it's really important that a lot of people see this movie, because I feel like a lot of people, especially like around our age, or even like when we were like a little bit younger, where I'm like, oh, well, Susie and John are having like a, disagreement, they have a fight. It's like, oh, if we have a fight, that means we have to break up. And it's like, well, no, you just have to work through it. And I think this film really shows as much, probably even more so than Marriage Story, that relationships are hard work, and that we kind of saw that a little bit with the Lovebirds movie, where they were kind of going back and forth, and their relationship was kind of in a rough spot. You know, obviously totally different movie, but just the relationship aspect of it, you know, you kind of have to like work at these types of things. And sometimes that just means having like some really, really ugly fights. And sometimes you say things you don't mean. And, you know, as long as it was draining, but you know, as long as you are, you know, respectful towards that person, or, you know, you're,
well, they kind of,
yeah, well, yeah. There's a little backstabbing. Well, I guess when I say respectful, as in like just having like that conversation, because I can only imagine some conversations to probably last arguments, last days, and then it eventually does lead to some type of, you know, divorce or breakup. But I think in a long-winded way, like, you know, they both got their points across, but I think Zendaya won on this one. Because, I mean, he did end up saying thank you. So maybe respectful wasn't the best word, but again, it's been a long day. So let's...
Godzilla versus Kong versus Malcolm versus Marie versus Batman versus Superman.
Honestly, though. All right, so let's wrap up here. Of course, this is the audio version only. We're not doing a live stream for this. Check out our Earwig and the Witch review that Zach, Leo, and I have put up. That's also an audio only podcast. And check out our Newsweek from our WandaVision episode 4 review, and our the news topics that we covered as well. So I'm going to stop talking and just get into the closing statement here. And that's a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to check out the other shows over on MusicCityDriveIn.com. Subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. That was Devin, and my name is Christian. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
You got to time it. It comes up, but it's all good. It's all good. Until next time, everyone.